Rose Minahan and her panel of guests bring you leading-edge astrology conversations through a journey of soul growth patterns connecting astrology's energetic cycles. Get ready to understand your path in the cosmic roots of the stars.
Hello again, this is Sue Rose Minahan, and I'm host of Talk Cosmos Leading Edge Conversations. And we've been on since 2018. You can catch all of them, the podcast and now the YouTubes. And we thank you 100,000% for joining us. Today is October 3rd, 2021, and it's beginnings, ready or not. I certainly have felt this. I know my panel has. And we know that right now Mercury is in its wonderful retrograde in Libra, which of course the sun is. And we're going to be talking about, with the Moonbeam Team, the new moon in Libra and the full moon in Aries. It happens every year, but this year, for many reasons, it truly is a beginning. Mars is an activator along with Venus, as we will discuss in many fashions. We're incorporating new ideas, how to elaborate on this idea of the meaningfulness that it might have for our lives. And they're, like, for instance, Sabian Symbols, which we've talked about somewhat, the lunar mansions, the Vedic lunar mansions, not everything in depth, but just to give some kind of idea. Geodetic, we'll explain what some of these mean. And Mars, as I was saying, is really an initiator to change the patterns that we've had. Sometimes it's just a fashion. Okay, so with the extremes of Libra, looking at both sides of things that make one and experiencing those, and it'll be unfolding as we discuss it. So with no more ado, I will say now we're ready for the Moonbeam Team.
Relating to the sun and moon's energies, including the planets and the entire cosmos for the month's systematic 2-week intervals of the new moon and full moon, plus the annual 4 to 5 eclipses, this is your Moonbeam Team.
I'm Sue Rose Minahan, host of Talk Cosmos, an evolutionary astrologer and consultant, plus a certified color energy coach. I explore creative expression as an artist, a musician, and write abundantly, stories to poetry. I love investigating mythology's language, philosophizing eternity, and I'm a perpetual student of life, seeing oneness of body, spirit of people, animals, and nature.
I'm Elizabeth Liz Muschett, certified astrologer, sacred healing counselor, tarotist, and numerologist, providing individual consultations, teaching and tutoring internationally, co-author of Gateways to Change, Keys to Navigating the Seas of Life, currently facilitating workshops in Marysville and Camano Island, Washington.
And I'm Sara Stromley, a craniosacral therapist and founder of Brain Body Therapy in Kirkland, Washington. I'm an evolutionary astrologer that incorporates different forms of horary, location mapping, and medical astrology into my practice. I enjoy uncovering flower and mineral frequencies that also support the mind-body coherence that aid in the healing journey.
And as Albert Einstein said,
energy is never destroyed. Energy only changes.
Yes, indeed. This is so true. From one energy to the next, right? And at this moment, I will say immediately, without looking at anything, that it's very evident to me that we have all these planets in retrograde along with this particular, I know it's an annual event, but it happens to be that we have the Mercury retrograde in Libra. And so therefore it's joining the great team of these outside planets. So it's a huge readjustments, isn't it? Have you been finding this with all your relationships, whatever they might be, with self and the world and friends and memories and yes?
Absolutely. Lots of change. We're shifting gears, that's for sure, because we've had a retrograde party going on, and we have 4 planets going direct this month. So it's a huge change of energy.
Yeah, the streams are going to be opening up. They will be. shall we just bring up the new moon right away? Because we are starting with the new moons as of last month, where it used to be the full moon. But we will do that and see if hopefully I can.
Well, and this new moon is also in Libra, cardinal sign. So we start out with this cardinal energy of initiating. Cardinal energy likes to start things. So it's like a time to shift gears. So we have many aspects happening right now talking about changing gears.
Yeah, that's so true. Well, because I know we're going to, right now, if we go from the Capitol building, all this energy is in, Mars. Let's not do that. Let's talk about Mars. I'm trying to get that chart up and it's not coming up for some reason. Let's see if I can do that. Okay. Now, what's happening here? Anyway, somebody keep talking as I try to find this. It's not coming up. Well, there it is. Did you see that? Can you see that? Did it come up?
I don't see anything.
Well, anyway, that's okay. Our podcast can't hear it anyway. But let's talk about Mars right there, right at 13 degrees. All of it so close. And it's the polarity of Venus. I mean, the cosmic lovers. So we're breaking away from things, yes?
Yes, and this new moon, the sun and moon are also at 13 degrees of Libra. So we have this 13-degree Libra party going on. Yeah. Did you share your screen? You have to push share.
I'm trying to, and I can't get it. I don't know what happened here. Anyway,
that's all right.
So that's all right. We can talk. We know it's happening. So let's go ahead and there's a lot of dynamics. There's this continual dynamic coming up besides this time that we're really looking behind going forward, but we're also in these tension-oriented worlds. And with the great, the large T-Square and square that we've been mentioning on many, many shows between Pluto and Aries, the truth teller of chaos, and Pluto of transformation. So, but let's talk about Mars maybe and the anger. So let's talk about the numerology of it. Somebody there?
Okay, well, we have we have 13 degrees, so we bump that up to 14 degrees, so that makes a 5. So a 5 is about change. So this month to me asks us to have change, but be gentle with yourself, because I want to bring in the Libra energy with that the Libra energy is about balance, harmony, partnerships, keeping it harmonious as we make changes. Because Mars sometimes can be a warrior. It's chaos. It's showing us things that need to be addressed. And so with this cardinal energy, we can start working on some issues to make changes. And not always is the first time that we make a change the complete change that we need to make. Sometimes it takes different efforts, and it's like, okay, we change this, now we know what part works, and then now we can make adjustments later on. But change is definitely in the air.
It is important, though. I want to say that yes, keeping somewhat of a balance, but it's important to feel what isn't working. If there's anger involved, anger is a tool. And I was just reading some notes that were saying that anger really just is there because some pattern is not working. And yes, of course, we're going to be listening to others. It is that dialogue with Venus and values and our partnerships. But ultimately, we need Mars wants us and to live the direction that we want in our heart. And Venus, its ruler, is in Scorpio. It says, I want what I want. The question is, what will happen if I get it? I think it's a bigger question, waffling in that deliberation, which Libra is great for seeing the sides of questioning that deep quest. If what I want is what I really want and I get it, it'll radically change everything more than I even know. And we are living in a time when there's so many exterior changes that one wants more control. And of course, Scorpio wants a lot of control too. That's the name of the game. But it's because of power. But yet releasing that power sometimes, going with that faith, it allows that co-creation of life. The synchronicity, what you feel can be drawn to you. There's a lot going on. Sara, I know you have some thoughts here.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I mean, all this cardinal energy, it's all about there's definitely new starts happening. And there's just a lot of almost contradictory energies that are happening, because Libra is all usually around considerations of other. And there's so much, it's around how we partner, how we connect, how we relate. And it's just in these really tense aspects with Pluto, Sun, Moon, Mars, Mercury. I mean, it stirs desire. It stirs the need to communicate, and where we're at on a soul level and emotional, how we connect to things on a very real world way. And
you were going to bring up too about the lunar mansions. How would you thread that in with the lunar mansion?
I was looking for my notes on that before I.
Oh,
I will.
I know it was 16.
Let me finish.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll come back to that. But I just wanted to say that that it's all that Libra energy is opposed Chiron in Aries, which is which is about healing aspects, the wounded aspects of ourself. And so with Mercury being retrograde in Libra, and definitely in part of this conversation, it's important to consider your true position, what we want to see long term, and what's the ultimate outcome based on engagement here, because there's some very careful considerations we need to make, because we could change our mind about this later. So it's good to know what we want individually, long term, what our ultimate goal is, and being integrity with that. So we're not just projecting out onto others and trying to work around what the other big picture needs are.
Well, this is valuable, and I'm glad we're going to wait for the other, because I have some thoughts about it very strongly. And it's so true, because the point is that sometimes in making a change, and it isn't a yod, as we had talked about before with this new moon, this sun, our will and our emotions of the moon, both in Libra of looking at the extremes of polarities, and along with this cardinal action of Mars. I mean, they're all cardinal, but wanting action. And you're so right. It's like that wounded part of our identity, because Chiron in Aries is all about, can my identity be my identity? It's really important, but it's in that yod also, meaning this finger of God, as it's called, where this, let me think here, Sue, it was in a yod, or is that the next one? Yes, it's in a yod. It's with Uranus and Pallas, the strategizer. But Uranus, when it wants to make a move, sometimes it doesn't know what it wants. It just knows this ain't working, and it goes. And that's a path. I think there's even a tarot card, the 9, with all the, that's saying, I can't remember which one. I'm not really adverse in tarot, but I'm fascinated with it. And it is where it's a departing on a trip. Doesn't really know where it's going, but it's leaving what's behind it. So you're right. In the best way, you can try to deliberate, but really it's that experience of connecting with your feelings. And thank goodness Mars is there to help the cause with Venus, that's saying it matters. This is intense. This is passion. This is like my life. This is what I really care about. Trying to connect to that.
And with this Libra energy, it's about relationships, but also about relationship with self. And, as you make the changes with the relationship of yourself, maybe how they applied in the past no longer serves, then it changes your outward relationships too, in your community. And, it expands and expands. So making changes within ourselves, finding out, paying attention to what doesn't work or what you don't like and how you want to change it, and start making those changes.
Now with numerology, Liz, I know you have the book that we did on the 5th of your gateways to change, that you're still people that are interested. The class will be upcoming later this fall. So if people need to connect and email to Liz for this, but it is all about numerology and astrology. So how would you interpret this particular sun and moon, please?
Oh, the sun and moon, it's like, the moon's our feelings and the sun is, pushing us forward, our path forward, and get in touch with our feelings. And then Mars is right there with it also. And with the 5 of energy, it's like, I would say that there's a lot of changes within ourselves. And so start with the relationship to self, because that really works in with that, I believe.
But with numerology, 1 and 3
Right.
is 4. Yeah, that's what
right. But I bump it up to the next number. So I would put it at 14 and reduce it down to a 5.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Go ahead.
And so 1 is about self. It's about me. It's singular. And the 4 is about building something. And then combining them together, you have a 5. So it's like time to make changes.
Yes. 4 is also very foundational, isn't it? So that 1
so there's like
with 4. Mm-hmm.
So there's work, and it's like you have to do your own work to start.
And with the 5, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well,
those that have done their work, it's easier.
Oh, to build on it. Yes. But I think, doesn't 5 bring in that other part, that the ethereal, the spirit? So you have your foundation, the physical, the form, but you're bringing in this new kind of going into the unknown of bringing in, that's where the change is involved. Is that true? I mean, I know that some
partially, but sometimes you'll know some of the changes you want to make, and sometimes you won't have any idea. It can be sudden and unexpected, but you could have an idea. So it's like sometimes you don't know. So
it's just like the hero's journey. It's like the hero's journey, isn't it? Where you really leave like the past and go on to the future of, between these two. And did you want to mention, Sara, about the lunar mansion, 16 Al-Zubana, maybe? Did you have your notes yet? That I know that you had mentioned it had to do about wealth and prosperity, but not love.
Yeah, there's no love in this. It's interesting because all the Libra energy. But the energy of this is really good for how we trade, how we do. Venus also rules money, so it's how we manage our money and how we go about our business and how we save for long-term things. But this energy is not good for relationships right now. And that's and you can see it echoed in this chart. Like Venus and Mars are just not cohesive. They're not really pulling together for the same things. And there's just some really tense, heavy energies with this, even though it's a lot of air. It's like all these weighty decisions that have to be made and strategy we have to think out. But I think it's really important to think because we're going to be coming, some of these planets are really close to making aspects to to Saturn, and into Jupiter. So in the coming days. So there's just Monday, tomorrow is a big day for a lot of the stuff as things start to change sign into, things starting to shift into making more closer aspects.
On the 4th? Yeah, that's a...
or no, the next day, like on the 7th. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's good to mention on the 7th. That's very true. Yeah, they're about to go... Pluto, I think, it's already stationary, and it's going to go direct. And then Jupiter and Saturn follow that relatively soon after that, which is our structure and our visions of expansion, and we're changing it all. So that's absolutely true.
And as Liz mentioned with the outer planets, both Pluto and Saturn, I think Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter are all like going direct. So it's like where we've been blocked. We've been really, really blocked. So just be kind to yourself, as Liz says, because just do the best you can, because there's just the decision makers, the authorities are just not working effectively because there's so much up right now.
Well, this does, if I may, yes. And I think I can add that really, again, it goes back to Venus in Scorpio. It's so interior. Venus is ruling this in a sense, and traditionally Scorpio is ruled not just by Pluto, but by Mars. And Mars is right in tangle with the sun and the moon. They're all like in one big party at 13 degrees Libra. And so what I'm getting at is that this scorpionic tension of with Venus that wants the passion in her life. It's about I was trying to thread this in with what you were saying, and that is that it's a matter of oh, yes, that Mars, and you're so right. I like that, Sara, where you said that they're not compatibly in the same, not using the same oars in the boat at the moment. It's like they're in two different boats going down the same river, you could say, because Mars in Libra is really very different for the Mars energy that needs to think about how it's separating, because it is thinking about the other. Whereas Venus, that wants to collaborate perhaps with it needs, that's what I'm thinking is when you said exchange, Scorpio is all about exchanging resources. So really it does tie in that right now it's not the time to really get together and have a rendezvous with your maybe a love relationship, but is setting up that energy for yourself in how do you really exchange what is within for your real empowerment, with others. So it's quite exciting. Oh, and the last thing, I wanted to bring up too about, I think now is a good time, the geodetic, and then we'll take a little break because that was the other thing that we were talking about. Well, we didn't talk about the Sabian symbols, did we?
No.
Okay, let's throw that out really fast. We have a few minutes. Let's talk about Sabian symbols.
So the Sabian symbol for this new moon is 14 Libra. In the heat of the noon, a man takes a siesta. So to me, that's talking about time out, take a break. Then the quest Sabian symbol, that's where we're headed towards, is circular paths. So establish a routine and don't get stuck in the going round and round and round.
Yeah, and a steady
karmic.
Oh, go ahead.
The karmic Sabian symbol is 1 degree before the new moon for where we've come from. Children blowing soap bubbles, young minds dreaming. So keep dreaming. And then I also wanted to say with Pluto stationing direct that it's, rules Scorpio. So it's like even more emphasis on that scorpionic energy. And even though Venus and Mars are in mutual reception, they're not really, they're in mutual reception. They're in each other's ruler signs, but they don't have a connection. They can't seem to get it together.
Yeah, it is interesting. There is sometimes Though behind all of that too is again this great energetic square, the 5th of the 5th coming up on October 9th between Pluto and Aries. You know, Pluto has 248 cycle year, and Aries, a dwarf planet further out, who's the sister of Mars, actually, is 558 years. And this last time that they were in this kind of tension together was 2,700 years ago, when a lot of the philosophical changes were happening of our directions. And Aries is a truth teller. So really, I would say that all of this is like really getting down to what is your own truth. And yes, it's going to rock the boat. Yes, people won't hear it, but that doesn't mean that one can't take some kind of acts of personal responsibility. And that's the other thing with anger or anything, because Mars, you know, and even with Venus and Scorpio, they're not always wanting, you know, when you decide or say something that is different from what other people are saying and they don't agree with it, there are methods of handling it. But again, it can just be that they don't want to hear it. And that's something to be accepted. So it's taking personal accountability. It's very cardinal, isn't it? Because if you look at Libra, Capricorn, Cancer, and Aries, they're all angular. They're ruled by the angular houses, or they are the angular houses. And so it really is a matter of your networking with your own self and your status in society and your own family and processing. It's a whole kit and caboodle. Well, let's come back. And this is Moonbeam Team. We're missing Katherine. She wasn't able to make it this week. I'm sorry to say, Katherine Metcalf. Hopefully she'll be returning. But I'm with Sara Stromley of Redmond, Washington, and Liz Muschett of Camano Island. And we'll be right back. Thank you.
While we take a break from this week's edition of Talk Cosmos, let's take a look at this cycle's archetype. We are currently in the Yang period of Libra, ruled dually by Venus. By leaving the lower hemisphere of the self, the energy of Libra enters the arena where the completed self meets the other than self to form a relationship based on partnership. As a cardinal air sign on the descendant angle, represented by the equinox of equal light, Libra's energy learns through comparison and relationships, with the intention to integrate duality and polarities.
Old world travelers never began a journey without a compass. And today, smart travelers won't leave home without a map or GPS to navigate the journey ahead. But when it comes to your journey through life, how do you get your guidance? By aligning numerology and astrology's wisdom. Combining numerology with astrology offers a great spectrum of insightful meaning for your personal yearly, monthly, and daily numbers. And to help you navigate these numbers to discover your best daily route, numerologist Liz Muschett, along with Gloria Riley, an Egyptian numerologist, and intuitive consultant Jenny L. Sinclair, have co-authored the book Gateways to Change 2018 and Beyond, Keys to Navigating the Seas of Life Using Numerology and Astrology. In addition to the book, Liz is also hosting a Gateways to Change workshop this fall, which complements the book to guide you to your life's journey and explore how to use the resources offered in the book. Copies of the Gateways to Change are included in the registration fee. The Gateways to Change book is now available to order on Amazon, and to register for the workshop, you can contact Liz at her website, alightpath.com, or send her an email at Liz, L-I-Z, Muschett, M-U-S-C-H-E-T-T, @gmail.com. Let Liz be your compass as you continue your journey here on Earth.
Talk Cosmos.
Hello, universe. This is Katherine Metcalf, professional astrologer, intuitive, and tarot card reader. And you are listening to Talk Cosmos on Alternative Talk 1150 AM, where we discuss the meaningfulness of our roots in the stars. Hosted by the beautiful Sue Rose Minahan.
Broaden your horizons. You'll be amazed at all the topics we cover on Alternative Talk 1150.
Well, Katherine was there. That's wonderful. Isn't that amazing how life is? You know, and I realized too that I was really thinking of this upcoming Aries full moon when I kept talking about the T-Square, which I'm trying not just to talk astrology to people, but T-squares means that there's 3 in this ultimate energetic thing. And I might say too that I know that with Planet Buzz, we often give whatever we're talking about on personal terms, but that the new moon coming up, the Libra new moon at 13 degrees is going to be right a degree away from my Neptune in the first house. So, you know, things may be a little bit nebulous in some ways. Obviously, I'm working really hard to get the details. And so
and with so many planets stationing direct, I always think of it as a big cruise ship and they're moving forward at full speed ahead. And now you have to change directions. So they have to, you know, take the power off from the full steam ahead and then put it in full reverse. And it still takes miles to stop the cruise ship.
And you so were a captain.
Yeah. And so there's this rambunctious energy happening of full speed ahead to now like stop it. And it's like all this chaos of the water and the engines and the propellers changing. So we're really feeling that because Pluto goes direct on October 6th in the afternoon, shortly after the new moon. Then Saturn on October 10th. And then Jupiter on October 18th, along with Mercury on October 18th. So this month is full of planets changing directions. So there's an added energy there too that can be chaotic, but doesn't have to be. But it's asking us, okay, now we have to change. So it's helping us, I think.
That's really a good analogy of it. And I can see that. I am on the water with you with all that white, turbulence. And I have to mention to our audience that you were a captain down in Puerto Rico for years there out on the sea, doing all kinds of tourists and other occasions. So this is a real experience that you're talking of. I like it. Yeah. Well, here we have the Aries full moon. Of course, that goes back also to thinking about the new moon that was 6 months ago in March, which we might talk about if we get time, because it is really about beginnings. And Mars, again, is conjunct. That means right close to the sun. So Mars is definitely Aries ruler. And again, doing those beginnings that you were mentioning so well. I'm glad, Sara, you brought up our subject title for our audience instead of diving into a bunch of other white water like I would. Oh boy, with my Neptunian thing going on. But the beginnings, it's like, it is most amazing. Ready or not, that's what I was saying. And I feel like that, like they are happening. And as we were saying, so this is on the 20th, and it is late in Aries, 27 degrees and a half, just about 26 minutes. And it'll be on the 20th and on the East Coast at 10:57 in the morning at the Capitol. And I'll just begin by saying that, because we didn't bring up geodetic, and I had mentioned in my article, because you can always find a little bit of the information on the 1150 KKNW online site, because we are hosted through that. Although Talk Cosmos is its own show, and we have our own website, and we have our YouTube channel. But still, it's good information to find out and check with all their other wonderful things happening. So about geodetic is a grid of lines, imaginary lines, but they're lines on the globe, starting from Greenwich, where time in this world that we live in begins, that we've all decided, except for 3 remote places around the world. The one's a temple someplace. I looked at that. But for general sakes, 99.9% of the world, we all go by Greenwich. And they go eastward, as we have the primary. Anyway, and so by the time these 30 degrees house systems get to our continent, they're from, let's say, Capricorn. They're later. So what I'm getting at is, and there's one that's the MC and the ascendant. And I'm not trying to teach geodetic. Chris McRae, a wonderful Canadian astrologer who recently passed, I think last year, who very ingenious, wrote a book about the geodetic astrology that I have somewhere. And here it is, actually. I can find it. Okay. Geodetic Astrology, 1988. It was republished. And she read something from the 20s that was about this idea. And Jim Lewis, who did astrocartography and patented it, where you put your own chart on from your birthplace on, they work very well together. But this is a standard fixed grid that's there all the time based from Greenwich. And it's great for mundane situations. And I'm bringing it up because right now in our nation of the United States of America, that we're speaking from anyway, Washington, D.C. and New York have Capricorn at the midheaven. And the ascendant is Aries. And it's just the opposite for London. London has the MC at Aries and the ascendant at Capricorn, I believe. But interestingly, in the news, there's been, we know what's going on in Washington, D.C. There's talk about polarities. But also I'm thinking, why do I bring it up? It's an interesting way to correlate some of the dynamics that are happening. I mean, Pluto would be in their 10th house of social structures and that. And there's such huge change occurring. And the ascendant would be ruled by Aries, looking to Mars. And it's looking to this. Mars is so instrumental, with it. Although, actually, for Washington, D.C., it's in the 10th house, 12th house. Well, I'm getting a little bit nebulous here with my Neptune, and I apologize, but we'll continue. It's a fascinating, mundane astrology is a great opening. Let's go into the Sabian symbols. Let's go into something more concrete. Very concrete, right? Sabian symbols.
So for the full moon, Aries, 28 degrees, a large disappointed audience. So I just chunked that down to that people's expectations were not met. And then the quest degree of where we're moving to, music of the spheres or planets. Listens to the sounds around you. A message from nature is waiting for you. And then the Sabian karmic degree, the degree before, is through imagination, a lost opportunity is regained. So use your mind and imagination to retrieve the opportunity. So all is not lost. And the numerology of 28 is a 1, so it's about new beginnings. And I also wanted to say that October is a 1 month. So with all the cardinal energy from these moons and the one energy, it's really emphasizing new beginnings and fresh starts. So I think that's gives us hope.
Well, looking at my notes, if we're revising our attitudes, that's where we're coming in and looking at our inner reevaluation. That really speaks of that new moon, right? We were talking about, I think the lunar mansion was that it's our trading. It's not our relationships, even though we're in Libra. And we were also talking about Venus, and we didn't bring it up, but you were mentioning earlier that everything is a 6. It goes to a 6, which is also Venus. So it's so Venus oriented. And then it goes into the disappointment of expectations. So it's like, that's so trying to work on what's going to be better. What does the lunar, in order to make some new balance? So what does the lunar mansion say, Sara? Do you have that available? I think it's a 3 you mentioned.
No,
We can't hear you. Oh, now we can.
Yeah, you're here. I hear you. Okay, go ahead.
The third lunar mansion is Al Thruaya, and the emphasis on that is creativity and great capacity for work. So it kind of echoes what Liz is saying. It's good for hunting. It's good for business and e-commerce and trade type things. But it's also, again, it's bad for marriage. It's just not a good time for relationships, strangely.
Intimate,
and even friendships. I mean, you just have to, it's like finding the boundary and the focus of where you're going to negotiate things for yourself. And
very Martian.
Yeah. And for the betterment of, what a cause that's close to your heart. So, but very potent creative energy here.
I guess bringing up the chart is important because Mars, when it separates, you can follow Mars, but you can only take your own body, your own self forward. In fact, I was just listening to something on TV called Explanation. My husband had it on Netflix, and it went through a whole series of things and went into time. And it was mentioning how we're 3-dimensional. We have a grid. And if you look at it as a plane, vertical, horizontal, and the depth, and little squares that you can, the whole idea that time could be before and after at the same time, which I'm, as metaphysical as I am, I really struggle with. But the fact is that 4th dimension time comes in, and it's, as we know with Einstein, talking about energy always changing, it's a flexible thing. It's not like 2-dimensional that makes a 3-dimensional. It's a warped. It changes. In other words, depending on how fast it goes, you have more memories and it seems to be fuller. Or if you're in nature, it goes very slow. So and also that has to do a lot with the cartography, that if you change where you are, that the planets were rising at different parts of the globe. And so that your experience is going to be perhaps different and all of that. So why did I bring that up right now? Sara, you were just mentioning about, about self. That's it. Yeah. About the lunar mansion, that it's not for, even though maybe we might want a partnership on an intimate, it's more that Mars is what I'm saying, is that we've got to change maybe the timing of our own patterns, would you say, in order to reconnect with.
It's just using strategy, and it is about partnering with the right people and having the right conversations. And it's great that Mercury is now direct at this point by the full moon, so that's helpful. But there's still all this Libra energy, and one side of Libra that doesn't really, Libra is typically referenced as, peace and harmony and balance and everything. But there's a side of Libra that's not really always covered, and it can be a warrior goddess. I mean, it is, she knows strategy a lot like Athena, and how to debate and how to delegate and create this diplomatic type relations with others. So, and if you reference the planet of Venus, you know that this is, I mean, its atmosphere is very acidic. It burns up anything that enters it within seconds. It has acid storms there all the time, and these giant pancake volcanoes, they're always liquid, always hot, but always so it's a very dynamic planet, even though it's Aphrodite. Yeah.
Good point. Excellent. Because Inanna, there's other mythologies, prior, because of the different countries, or not countries, cultures, you could say. Because yes, like we have the morning star of Venus and the evening star of Venus, like Ariel Gutman and Adam Gainsbourg, so many of our wonderful modern astrologers are really bringing emphasis to, but the Mayans and also back in ancient Mesopotamia and Egypt, I don't know about probably Egypt, they saw, just as you're saying, Venus in the morning and Venus at night. And Venus in the morning is not visible as long, but Venus at night is visible for so long and huge in culture. And yes, it was definitely, you're right, that we tend to experience not the experience of Venus because we have all the lights out. People don't look at the sky. They're not living in that context now. And so we're getting stories that are shared by what the goal was. The goal is to find the balance. But the truth is, I know I've been told that the greatest, I think was Patton. I'm not sure if General Patton, but there are the generals, many great generals were Libras. And she absolutely right, this strategy. And it was the goal was to have equilibrium, but that didn't mean that was what they had. A lot of times for Libras, it's off kilter trying to find that. But it's not the secret, as you pointed out earlier, and I have a lot of Libra, so I've lived a lot of this and I totally get it, is that by acquiescing to the other and deferring without really getting centered, which Venus in Scorpio is asking us at this moment to do. And I think in that chart, where is Venus? Venus is still in Scorpio.
Sagittarius.
I'm looking. Oh, Sagittarius. Okay, I'm looking at the wrong. Thank you, Liz. Yeah. So it's gaining a new philosophy at that point. That's true. It's gaining a new perspective, and right, because you want to know where your own truth lies. Yes.
Yeah, and the seventh house, which is the house that Libra tends to rule in the traditional zodiac that we study, that rules legal matters too. You see the scales. It's this scales of justice too, so it can be contracts, legal contracts, debating the fairness of that, or where things have kind of gotten off track, as well. So, and it rules business partnerships, business connections, and as well as the dance of that leads to marriage. I really think the eighth house is more a marriage.
It is. It's where you
get to the nitty-gritty.
You sanctify. Yeah, you sanctify it. Yeah, that's where you put up your shingles for business. You put up your marriage license. Exactly.
Yeah, it's where you commit in the seventh, and then to me, the eighth is where it gets down to business of what that means.
Well, it's so passionate, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a passion. That's why Venus right now in Scorpio doesn't want to fool around. It wants to know really what is it that's making its heart tick. What is enough that one will exchange or can exchange in order to, because we're not meant to be isolated. We're meant to be, life is in production together in some form. So we need to have relationships of some form and make them productive.
And even if contracts aren't formalized, it seems like there's always an unspoken agreement a lot of times with people. And sometimes that can really get blurry or messy. Well, this person's always done this, so that's just how it is, kind of thing. And it's not, some of these things need to be renegotiated. So
that's a good point. Maybe and then again, that reminds me of Pluto in Capricorn now, breaking down the conditioning. Capricorn is the conditioning because it's a structure. It's traditional, and it's what we've accepted and what we're all working on in some form of unanimity. But yet, sometimes it doesn't work anymore. Often, it's got to get rebooted out. Liz, what are you percolating on?
Well, I just want to mention the Cardinal T-Square, and it's really interesting. With the sun, we have Mars with the sun, and with the moon, we have Aries, and then those are opposite, and they're squaring off to Pluto. So there's, asking for adjustments. And then the mystical rectangle in this chart of what is the gift, and the planets that are involved in that's Mercury of communication, the ascendant in Sagittarius, Chiron in Aries, and Ceres and Black Moon Lilith in Gemini. So I would say, what do I want to keep and what do I want to let go of, and do it gently and easily with harm to none.
Can you see the screen? I tried to share it. No,
Oh, it's coming up. It's coming up.
Oh, okay. Very good. Yeah. For those that can see it. So what was that again? Can you say that, please?
Oh, sure.
I'm sorry.
The whole thing, or just the mystical rectangle?
Yeah. Well, what you're talking about in some essence.
Well, the Cardinal T-Square, and we have the sun with Mars in the 11th
they're very
house.
close.
And then
Libra.
we have Aries with the moon in the 5th house, and then Pluto in the
Opposite.
2nd house. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then they've squared off to Pluto. So, those are some powerful planets that are asking us to make changes. And then the mystical rectangle is...
Yeah, and maybe we could pause just for a moment there. Thank you for repeating that, because I'm thinking the emotional, when the moon is in Aries, it's so emotional. It's like we're cutting. Aries wants to cut. That's what Aries does. It's like, it cuts things, and it's cutting away. The moon does not like to let go of things. So you have a struggle right for the fact that it's existing in this energy, and it's a late energy. It's 27 degrees. It could be 28. So it's like, it's been on this path, every month it goes through this path, but still right now it's intense. And since it's caught up in this dynamic, in this, what you're saying, this T-square, and it's opposite its ruler. So it's really, we're like all this awareness, and its ruler, Mars, is got this other goal of trying to find some balance with what we're going to cut away from, and how is that going to work with my whole being, my whole ego but meanwhile, you have Pluto, the transforming metamorphic energy of death and the ending of cycles, right? I mean, we could put it that way, of deconditioning. So it's an intense time. I'm sorry, it's making sense. Oh my gosh, we can't be that late.
Yeah, it does get easier. I just want to add, it does get easier late this month, and we'll cover that at the next show on Halloween, the 31st. So.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you, Sara Stromley and Liz Muschett of Moonbeam Team. And this has just been marvelous. And I guess when you're having fun, time gets carried away, right? That time, that warp that we did, we went faster and faster. At least we made some meaningfulness. And we thank everybody. And do check out Liz's book. Her class coming up sometime this fall, if you have time. And we'll be back again, Talk Cosmos Leading Edge Conversations. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and her panel of guests connect soul growth patterns with the energetic cycles of astrology. Be sure to tune in next Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific Time to continue your journey through the roots of the cosmic pathway.